Good morals are fundamental in nurturing key players in development from both public and private sectors. Chaplains provide psychosocial support and holistic care in a volatile and complex world. For example, we've heard of chaplains existing at the Malawi Police Service and the Malawi Defense Force, among other institutions in the public sector. The Council of Chaplaincy Ministry, COCHAM, is a non-governmental organization established with an aim to equip chaplains with skills on how they can best discharge their work. Well, in this week's edition of MBC Exclusive, we speak to Mavuto Chipeta, who is the Executive Director of COCHAM. I'm Kumbukani Piri. Glad you could join us. Mr. Mavuto Chipeta, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So tell us more about the Council of Chaplaincy Ministry. What is the philosophy behind this organization?
Of course, Council of Chaplaincy Ministry was founded on the premise of care for people, our priority. In other words, the philosophy and the rationale of Council of Chaplaincy Ministry is care for people as a priority. But not only that, Council of Chaplaincy Ministry is also on the looking at the gap in terms of practice. You would appreciate that there is a practice of chaplaincy in Malawi. Currently, we have chaplains who are working, as you have already alluded to, but also let me make it a point that I think you have witnessed spiritual caregivers in hospitals. You have seen also preachers maybe in various organizations. So the practice is there, but what is lacking is the professional aspect in terms of practice. But also, Council of Chaplaincy Ministry was founded on the philosophy and rationale to address the policy issue, because there is also that gap. We discovered that here in Malawi, we don't have a clear-cut policy on how to hire chaplains and also on how to handle chaplains in those institutions. So both service providers, or those who procure services for chaplaincy, and those who provide the labor for chaplaincy, there is that gap of policy. And not only that, Council of Chaplaincy Ministry comes in to address the gap of formal and informal training in terms of chaplains. So we are looking at the professional aspect. That is why if you see the vision of Council of Chaplaincy Ministry is to be a council that promotes the professional development of chaplains in Malawi and beyond. But even the name itself, Kumbukani, you would appreciate that it may be a misnomer to call it ministry. Someone would be maybe surprised to say it's a ministry or maybe like another ministry, but we are proposing through the board members that maybe we wanted to use the name Council of Chaplains in Malawi. That was the ideal one. But from the legal team, the legal advisor, they said you cannot use Malawi without the consent of the executive. That's why we are using ministry. So basically, in summation, I might say Council of Chaplaincy Ministry was founded on the philosophy of addressing the gap in terms of practice in Malawi, and also looking at the policy issues and looking at the professional development, and also is there to do advocacy between those employers in chaplaincy and also the chaplains themselves. What are the conditions of service? So basically, in a nutshell, that's what I can say.
So who is a chaplain?
The chaplain may be a priest. Actually, they are people of faith who provide guidance and counseling in institutions. So the difference between a chaplain and a pastor or any other clergy person or a priest or a sheikh or an imam, just a male one, is that the chaplain does the specialized ministry in an institution, whether be it public or private. So these are spiritual caregivers, but their focus is on providing the psychotherapy and psychosocial services.
So in other words, why should a chaplain be a faith leader. Why can't a chaplain be a person who studied psychology? Because that makes them more relevant to what you're talking about.
Of course, we do have chaplains who have done counseling, and we do have chaplains who have done psychology, but it makes more relevant if one also has an ecclesiastical background. That is why we would want those institutions like denominations to train as more chaplains as we can, because there is an ecclesiastical element which goes with administering sacraments. If a chaplain is hired in an institution, at one moment or the other may be required to do services of administering holy sacraments that require an ecclesiastical endorsement from a particular religious body.
So, Mr. Jipeta, do you think that the services of a chaplain are required, whether in an institution that is public or private?
Yes, Kumukani, the services of a chaplain are required. I will take you back to 2017 when a survey was conducted at Chancellor College by Professor Dulan and also his colleagues, where they discovered that 83% of Malawians, they have trust in faith leaders. In other words, if you have a chaplain in an institution and you want that institution to be an institution of integrity and to be an institution of corrupt-free institution, you really need a chaplain. And also, I may highlight to you that you may appreciate that recently in Malawi, we have had so many cases of suicide. Suicide cases are rising in Malawi because of lack of psychosocial support and issues of mental health. And you may appreciate that the definition of health by World Health Organization defines health not only from the aspect of absence of disease, but also a complete approach of one's wellness in terms of physical, mental, and social. So I'll tell you that almost each one of us, we may pretend that we are not sick and we are not suffering, but almost everyone, every Malawian, they are either sick socially, they are either sick economically, they are either sick academically or mentally. They really require a chaplain. And also a survey was done, a study by the American Health Association in 2012 in palliative care. They discovered that hospitals which had chaplains, they had lower death rate compared to hospitals that did not have chaplains. And many palliative care patients preferred hospitals that had chaplains. And you can, from that perspective, you can appreciate that we really require chaplains in Malawi.
How does a chaplain deal with issues of religion? You did point out that a chaplain can be an imam, can be a sheikh, or even a reverend or a pastor. How do they handle themselves? You also spoke about administering of sacraments. How does a chaplain minister those when there's a diverse range of faiths in an institution?
Of course, that's why Council of Chaplaincy Ministry is coming in, because there is a statement which we say that all chaplains are clergy people, while not all clergy people are chaplains. By that, what I mean is one cannot be a chaplain unless they are trained on cross-cultural communication, and they are trained on anthropology and also how to deal with the multi-faith approach to religion. So I would say a chaplain, once is professionally trained, that is where we want to deal with the issues where maybe you have seen preachers going to the hospital and they tell patients to say, don't take drugs, or maybe you have been healed from now onwards. So those issues, we want chaplains who are professionally trained and they can be they can appreciate in the area of diversity, and they can also appreciate and also have an approach of inclusivity, and also have the cultural competences of various denominations. Actually, the chaplain is not supposed to approach his approach to ministry based on the doctrinal aspect. The chaplain approaches ministry from another angle, from the professional aspect, offering psychotherapy and psychosocial services that have to do with cross-cultural communication and approach.
Borrowing from your experiences as a chaplain at the Malawi Police Service and in other institutions, how is a chaplain supposed to handle private issues?
Of course, one key area in professional development of chaplains is that we train chaplains on confidentiality. So confidentiality is a must, and a chaplain is supposed to sign that policy that is going to keep his clients or her clients' issues of counseling sessions confidential. In the event that a chaplain is found that he had maybe revealed whatever was being discussed during the counseling sessions, then we require those chaplains for their approval or papers to be withdrawn temporarily until at a later stage when this chaplain is proved that he can be confidential.
Why do we need chaplains in the Malawi Police Service and the Army when these people are considered to be, they're seen to be strong, and you know, that's the personality that these institutions portray? Do they really need the services of chaplains in these institutions?
Of course, if you were to ask me, I would respond to that question from the bird's eye view or broader perspective, to say that everyone needs a chaplain. Even MBC needs a chaplain, because every one of us is going through either stressful situations. So back to your question, if we are to focus on security institutions, as you have already alluded to and highlighted that they go through rigorous training, you may appreciate that their nature of work gives them stress. And there are certain moments when they are sent for peacekeeping mission, like in the defense forces. They require a chaplain to go with them. You may recall that maybe we had some of our soldiers who died in peacekeeping mission. At that particular moment, it's not every clergy person who can handle those situations. We need a chaplain who can give the psychosocial support and also psychotherapy services to the officers working, because an officer has died in line of duty. And that also trickles down, and it also affects their families. It also affects their children. So you need the chaplain to be present in those moments to help them in the area of death notification, in the area of debriefing, in the area of post-stress traumatic disorder. So we really need a chaplain in those areas. But it's not only security institutions, even in campuses, be it tertiary institutions and be it high schools or secondary schools. I want to see Malawi reaching a level where maybe we may have chaplain in all our national secondary schools, and also we have chaplains maybe in high schools, academies. While we are pursuing academic excellence, we also need character building and change of mindset that we are trying to push as an agenda cannot be achieved unless we have chaplains. I really appreciate the executive or our government, the government of Malawi, that we do have the presidential advisor on religious affairs and also representing the Christian community and also the Muslims, but we need to take a step further. Other countries, they do have chaplains even in state residences. They do have chaplains at parliament. They do have chaplains in various institutions. so that they can help their employees to improve organizational performance. Because a study which was conducted in 2016 by David Millers from the human resource management perspective discovered that organizations and institutions who have chaplains, the organizational output or performance is improved, and the rate of turnover or employees resigning from an organization is reduced. Because from the industrial psychology perspective, the chaplains, they look at personnel psychology, and they look at the environmental psychology and also organizational psychology. So they set the organizational culture.
You're watching MBC Exclusive. Our guest this week is the Executive Director of the Council of Chaplaincy Ministry, COCHAM, Mavuto Chipeta. We'll be back shortly after this break. Welcome back to MBC Exclusive. Our guest this week is Mavuto Chipeta, Executive Director of COCHAM. Now, I'm going to take you back a little. You just said that there's need to have chaplains in every institution, whether it's schools, colleges, and whatever institution, public and private.
Yes.
But the question is, everyone belongs to a certain faith.
Yes.
So whether it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they'll still go to worship and get spiritual guidance, if you like, or spiritual attention. Why should they get the services of a chaplain when they're already getting spiritual care from wherever they worship? But
most of the times that they are at the workplace, in those times, they are not with their religious or faith leaders. So it is at that particular moment, and the approach of a chaplain and also any other faith leader, what makes a chaplain distinctive is that the focus is mainly on guidance and counseling on psychosocial issues. Organizations can hire an employee who is single and gets married there at the workplace, and also they have children at the workplace, and they keep on growing. So they really need, and you would also, let me also present to you that Malawi as a country, we haven't reached that level of offering the mental health services as required. We do have St. John of God, but they don't have the capacity to reach everywhere. So that's why we are saying if we can train chaplains and they are present in institutions and they are professionally trained to work as a chaplain, we believe the issues that employees are going through, every one of us, we are wearing a mask, but honestly speaking, we do have issues. And those issues, they can only be assisted if chaplains are present in various institutions. I don't want to give examples, but I am compelled to tell you that we have had issues where in tertiary institutions you'd hear of, they call it STGs, I mean STG, or S, what they call is, I mean, sexually transmitted grades. That at that level, if you have a student who is going through that experience, she has no one to tell. We have issues of sexual harassment and abuses in offices. We have issues that you talk of gender-based violence. They cannot tell their bosses. They need someone neutral in an institution to confide and also tell those issues. And also, I will also take you back. Just take the statistics from police, or you will appreciate that even numbers of suicide are rising, and statistics are saying numbers of suicide are rising, and most of the people who commit suicide are men. And it is only chaplains who are trained they should know what are the risk factors and what causes people to commit suicide and how they can help in such circumstances. So we really need chaplains in institutions, and it is my appeal that if government can make it possible, as I was presenting this to Minister of Health through the nursing department, that in every hospital, if we can have a trained chaplain working like at district level, we may start at a small scale. At that level, if we start at micro level, we may bring sanity. But we have had the clergy and medical practitioners where a medical practitioner would want to attend to a patient, and also the spiritual caregiver is also would want to pray, and regardless of the timing, whether the doctors would want to attend to a patient or not. So those are the issues. Similarly to prisons, we need chaplains, because most of the inmates who are there, their faith leaders are not there, and they need a chaplain to be present. And the language that they use, as you are also rightly putting it, if you put a chaplain in a particular institution dealing either with students and faculty, or either dealing with the officers in the police, in the army, because they are operating in that environment and context, they are able to speak the language that the clients are facing. Recently, one of the professors was just confessing from one of the colleges in Malawi that although they do have DINO students, but DINO students, when students are facing emotional issues, they are not able to handle students. And not only students, you discover that students and faculty, there are some who are going through maybe addictions and the like. We really need chaplains.
You did mention a few things that happened internationally that don't happen here. What are the gaps when it comes to issues of chaplaincy in Malawi, and what are the practices that are going on globally that we need to borrow from as a country in terms of chaplaincy services?
Thank you, Kumbukani. I would also look at your question from the broader perspective at continental level, Africa as a whole, and even Malawi. We are still at infancy stage in terms of chaplaincy. You can imagine, like on the continent of Africa, when it comes to training chaplains in police or law enforcement chaplaincy, we are only 2 on the continent of Africa. The other one is a Kenyan and myself. In terms of gap, as I said earlier on, to say there is a policy gap. And also in terms of policy, those that are providing chaplains to institutions, they don't have a policy. So they just send the faith leaders to work in those institutions. And what normally happens is that those chaplains, they face some challenge. I mean, they go through some challenges that they need someone to speak on their behalf. I would give you an example that when I visited Australia and also US, as I go there to train chaplains, I discovered that chaplains are well recognized in an institutions, and they can be hired. Like, for example, you are talking of workplace chaplaincy. You can have a chaplain in an organization fully paid by an institution like any other employee. That we do not have it in Malawi. And also they do have chaplains who work on part-time. They do have chaplains who work as volunteers. But mainly in terms of policy, there is a big gap, because it's like we are doing chaplaincy, but there is no clear-cut policy in terms of guidance to say, how do we handle a chaplain? So institutions can hire a chaplain, but what they think is a chaplain can only come for prayers, while it's not the main thrust of having chaplains. We really need to have full-time chaplains who can get employed in institutions and even be paid by government. Of course, in the Malawi Police Service and also Malawi Defense Force, they do have, but some chaplains are on contract. We need to move away from that. Even in higher institutions, they do have chaplains, or what they do is they just call them during graduation to offer a word of prayer. We need to go beyond that, and that is why we are saying Council of Chaplaincy Ministry offers training in law enforcement chaplaincy, that's police chaplaincy, correctional chaplaincy, prison chaplaincy, and also offer trainings in terms of workplace chaplaincy, and also offer trainings in healthcare chaplaincy and in campus chaplaincy. And it is our wish that even the Football Association of Malawi should have a qualified chaplain who can prepare our football players psychologically as they are playing their games, even in netball team. And also clubs, they need to hire chaplains. That's where we have a curriculum in sports chaplaincy. And we can also appreciate if political parties can have chaplains. So we can have political chaplaincy where we can train chaplains to work with politicians specifically. So those are some of the areas that really need to be addressed, like here in Malawi.
What are your final thoughts when it comes to issues of chaplaincy in Malawi and the direction that we should take as a country when it comes to issues of chaplaincy?
My final thoughts would be it's high time now we need to enhance the capacity building of chaplaincy, and we also need to take chaplains as a profession, not just like any other extracurricular activity that can be done in an institution. We want to see Malawi government through Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Home Affairs, having chaplains in their institutions. We need people who are professionally trained, and we need to upscale the capacity building of chaplaincy in Malawi. And for your information, we are planning to hold the first national conference of chaplains early next year, the first quarter. And the nation will be informed. And most Malawians, it is our appeal that those chaplains who have not joined Council of Chaplaincy Ministry should join. And also, we appreciate what the faith and mother bodies are doing, like Malawi Council of Churches and also Episcopal Conference of Malawi and Public Affairs Committee. We appreciate what they are doing, but we are saying it is high time we also need to appreciate chaplaincy in our institutions to deal with issues of immorality, to deal with issues of moral decadence, to deal with issues of integrity, to deal with issues of mindset change, to deal with issues of suicide, and also all those other issues that we are facing.
Mr. Mavudo Chipeta, it was nice having you in the program. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And that's how we conclude this edition of MBC Exclusive. Our guest this week was Mavudo Chipeta, Executive Director of the Council of Chaplaincy Ministry, COCHAM. I'm Kumbukani Piri. Until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.